So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first in the series of PSN webinars. And just to let you know that it is recognized that whilst there is formal membership in the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management is for member states, the delivery of geospatial solutions can only be achieved through collaboration with different sectors, including government, science, technology, research, academia, and of course, the private sector. And so the purpose of the private sector network is really intended to facilitate this direct connection and communication of private sector work with member states to achieve success in the global geospatial initiatives. And so the PSN is facilitating ongoing dialogue and collaboration amongst members. And one of the things that we decided that we wanted to have a webinar series, and it's interesting that we are getting started amidst a global pandemic. We've had some dialogues and participated in other things that has spoken to how can we really respond to this pandemic using geospatial. And so today, we are going to talk about moving from response to recovery. And with us this morning, we have one of the private sector network America's member taking the lead in this first webinar, Esri. And the presenters are Linda Peters, Brent Jones, Catherine Smith, and Calvin Cohn. Linda has over 25 years working in the geospatial industry and working for Esri 15 years, and she has consulted with companies across industries, helping them to achieve greater efficiencies by leveraging GIS and spatial analysis. And today, she works primarily with national statistical offices across the globe, helping them to understand how to apply geographic methods. She's no stranger to us in the Americas. Welcome, Linda, and thanks for leading this presentation this morning. Also, we have Brent Jones, and Brent is based in DC, and he oversees Esri's worldwide strategic planning, business development, and marketing activities for land records, cadastral, surveying, and land administration. He's recognized as an innovator. He specializes in modernizing existing land administration systems and designing new GIS-based cadastral management. And he's going to be really focusing on some of the response efforts that can be undertaken in this presentation. We also have Calvin, who is a solutions engineer with Esri's nonprofit and global organizational team, where he works with organizations like the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, and other international organizations. And we also have Miss Catherine Smith, who is a solutions engineer with Esri. This team is going to take us through. I'm Valerie Grant, and I'm the chairperson for the Private Sector Network Americas. And it is a pleasure to hand you off to Linda and subsequently to Janet, who will be leading us and facilitating the questions. Thanks for joining us this morning. Linda?
Thank you, Valerie. Really appreciate the introduction. And I am going to turn my video off so that we don't have any bandwidth issues on my end as I kick us off here. I wanted to start with talking about our objective this morning. We really want to demonstrate the value of GIS as we all move to reopen, but with a focus on the application of spatial data for decision making. So we're going to cover quite a bit of ground this morning. We'll start out with just a quick touch on disaster response in GIS, and then move quickly into a discussion around business continuity, recovery, and reopening. We will have some demonstrations from both Calvin and Catherine, and then at the end, we will talk a little bit about some of the COVID-19 support and solutions that Esri has made available to the community. And of course, we'll throw it open at the end for Q&A. So please, if you have questions along the way, put them in the chat window. We have Janet on from We Love Learning, who will help facilitate our Q&A at the end. So we all have felt the coronavirus impact. It really is creating a massive public health challenge for communities across the globe, both from the government agency as well as from the private sector viewpoint. And as we know, geospatial and statistical data have a vital role to play in the response. We've seen so many great information products, maps, dashboards, applications, helping us communicate out vital information. But geospatial is also key in recovery and reopening, from indoor mapping to workforce tracking, proximity analysis, and more. And we'll show you some of those things shortly. Now, I do want to take a moment just to highlight the work of the geospatial community and share some examples with you. And these range from COVID-19 response, but also previous pandemics. Esri began work in the area of disaster response more than 2 decades ago after the Northridge quakes here in California, where I live. And we've supported many events since then, including the earthquakes in Haiti and the Ebola response in West Africa. And we continue that work today with data visualization, with community reporting, data analytics, and work on vulnerable populations, helping to understand and get access to healthcare where it's needed. And in all of these, the real impact and understanding comes from the information that has been incorporated and shared. Now, we see GIS being applied in many ways in COVID, and initially it was about response. We saw very quickly 5 steps emerging to help us in that response, starting with understanding the community risk, mapping the cases. Social distancing policies were put in place based on community risk, and we needed to understand and measure the effectiveness of those policies. We also need to map and understand vulnerable population. Where is the spread? Where is the impact? Where is the community most at risk? Where are the expected impacts on the healthcare system? So managing resources, including the allocation of testing and treatment sites, was critically important. And sharing this information out with the public, with citizens, so that they too could understand the risk and do what they can to keep themselves safe and to understand where they could possibly go for testing or treatment. And these components all work in a single system in ArcGIS, and the output of each component serves as an input to another, like an ecosystem. And we've seen GIS used to help understand these issues by doing spatial analysis, understanding the community, at-risk populations through doing things like cluster analysis, finding statistically significant clusters and patterns. It could also be in assessing risks and planning intervention through multivariate clustering, pattern detection, forecasting disease spread through models like the CHIME model, which is available in ArcGIS Pro, or determining how to distribute resources through tools like location allocation. Now, we can also use GIS as we move from response to recovery, leveraging business continuity solutions. You can use these solutions to monitor the status of your facilities, including closures and other business impacts. Perhaps monitor the capacity of your workforce, including who's working from home, who's in the office, or maybe at another location. To understand the health of your employees, if your policies and procedures permit you to do so. And of course, understanding and acting on the current status of that information and keeping your workers up to date with that information. And finally, if you're customer facing, you need to understand the customer demands, policy restrictions, what's going on state by state, county by county, district by district. Communication disruptions have to be shared with customers, with stakeholders, and communicating those disruptions, those change in hours of operation or those change in policies is critically important. So as we move to considerations for reopening, we again see some steps, some patterns emerging to help us understand the impacts of COVID on reopening. We need to be able to map the trends. And again, that means to understand where, which place, which district is reopening, what phase are they in. We need to understand community resilience as well as organizational resilience. Which of my stores or restaurants, for example, can I open? What is the local policy? What is the impact of that? And of course, again, communicating all of that information out. And for many organizations, this includes working in the field. And COVID-19 is demanding change in the workplace and in government agencies and private sector alike. In the field, this may mean minimizing the interaction between drivers and customers by leaving deliveries at loading docks, for example, or on the doorstep, or a location that mitigates person-to-person contact. It could be using a personal vehicle to enforce social distancing. Or perhaps your workers will start from home rather than going to an office or a garage at the start or end of each day. And it could also be requesting your employees do a check-in, provide you with a status, let you know that they're doing okay, and encouraging them to keep safe and report any concerns that they might have. So as we move, as we see our organizations shifting from response to recovery, I want to turn it over to my colleague, Brent Jones, to give us a bit of a deeper dive. Brent?
All right, thanks, Linda. I think I'm sharing the wrong screen, is that correct? How's that?
You're good now.
Good?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thanks. Nice job, Linda. I'm going to drill just a little bit deeper, and then we'll get into some demonstrations with Catherine and with Kelvin. Business continuity it's an organization's ability to maintain essential functions during and after an interruption, such as a hurricane or earthquake, in our case today, a global pandemic. It's the ability to serve the public, execute mandates, and keep our staff safe. You can see from the dashboard that at just a glance, you can understand every employee's status. And what we're going to do today is put this in context of managing field workers and use that data for proximity tracing. Using ArcGIS, you can know where your employees are and they can check in, and you can check in with them. If some employees go in and out of an office, you can tell how many offices they go in and out of, who's at the office and at what times. You'll be able to keep track of who they come in close proximity with. What can you do right now? Do you know the status of all your staff and can you communicate it? Do you have a good communication mechanism with the public? Here you see the operations dashboard for scheduling and tracking, and the hub for engaging and communicating critical information and summary statistics with the public. What we're going to show today is how to set up some of the solution apps, dashboards, and analysis capabilities for proximity analysis, and how to use some of the capabilities in the business continuity solution. It's common sense to understand that the lack of planning can result in failures, but with pandemics, failures cascade, magnifying problems because of poor planning. We can plan right now, and we have the tools to get ahead of this. It's a very good time to be proactive. There are common technical challenges implementing solutions. Many organizations lack the IT infrastructure and resources to quickly deploy a solution. The business continuity is a SaaS, solution as a service, hosted solution, and is template-based, so it's quick to deploy. Most organizations have data accuracy issues. Because of this, a single platform and based on web services, there's a single copy of the data and it's delivered in real time. But it can work offline also if there's no cell coverage or the data plans are expensive. Because its costs are off-the-shelf solution, there's no software development, and it can be configured to meet your organization's unique needs. Linda went briefly over this. We report and monitor with dashboards. We analyze and understand with maps and apps, and we communicate with maps. There's no one exact solution for everyone, dashboard, maps, or apps. That's why the solution is configurable. You can configure how to how your organization operates and for your particular needs. What do you want to monitor? What do you want to understand? What do you want to communicate, and to whom? Sometimes we want this information internally only, and sometimes we want to communicate with the public or with our customers. You set this up to meet your needs. Part of the solution has for your team to check in and a dashboard to display the results. These apps can be easily configured to ask questions that are pertinent to your organization and particular field work that you're doing. Some field work requires entering a building that you come within 2 meters of someone. That information can be collected and displayed on a dashboard so you know the status and history of your field workers. Calvin's going to show not just how to show where your field workers are on a map, but some spatial analysis with that data. Note these dashboards. You understand facility status at a glance. Is it open? How many people are there? How many people are scheduled to be there? You can schedule your personnel by facility and understand the status and potential issues. Do you have a web map that communicates with the public which small businesses are open and what precautions they're taking? Do you have a program to help small businesses? If your business is open, what are the hours? Is there outdoor seating? Do you have a cleaning message you want to communicate? The solution also provides apps that help economic development agencies administer these small business programs. Staff can review small business listings provided by business owners, manage a business's visibility, and remove businesses' listings when necessary. They can also generate pre-formatted emails to engage small business owners and encourage them to fill out the small business impact survey so we know what's going on. With the solution, business owners can promote their businesses by providing accurate business listing information, particularly with tourism when there are people visiting that aren't familiar with the area. Communicating to these visitors what's open and the conditions and hours of operations is vitally important. Small business owners can also fill out a small business impact survey to share their needs and concerns. Maybe there's a PPE issue, maybe there's some other status issue that they'd like to communicate. For small businesses to reopen successfully and safely, citizens need to be engaged with your reopening initiatives. The solution also provides apps that help you engage residents throughout the reopening process. Residents can view small business listings through a locator and help them seek out and support small businesses in the community that have reopened. Oops, sorry about that. As a business begins to reopen, there may be a need for the public to report unsafe conditions or unsafe business practices, potential health violations to administering agency. To help collect these reports, the solution includes a survey app that lets citizens report violations of public health orders. You can configure the survey to reflect specific public health orders in your community, such as social distancing or PPE requirements. Okay, now over to Catherine, so we'll drill down and demonstrate some of the elements of this solution.
Thanks, Brent. Catherine, you're up next.
Thanks, Brent. As Brent mentioned, the coronavirus pandemic has significantly impacted the workforce of many organizations. Personnel that typically report to an office may be forced to work from home. Facilities may be closed or restricted to essential workers, and workers may be unable to report to work due to household issues. So, organizations need to know who's able to work, where the employees are working from, and if they need any assistance. The coronavirus business continuity solution includes check-in surveys and a dashboard to collect and display information from personnel, including their work status, work location, and wellness information. An individual check-in survey is included with the solution. Here, employees can report if they're working today, where they're working from, for example, from their normal work location, temporarily working from home, or off-site or other. If they choose off-site, a map is available to show where they're working from. They can also indicate if they'll be working in close contact with anyone else during the day. There are also a number of health-related questions in case someone was experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. These questions are completely dependent on the policies of your organization and can be changed or removed if necessary. There's also an option to provide additional information in case there was anything the organization could provide to assist the remote workers. For example, if they can go into the office and get something. So this is a good way to monitor your staff and what's happening in your workforce. There's also a team check-in survey, which enables a manager, supervisor, or team lead to report the work status on behalf of their personnel. For example, I could say that 3 members of my team are working from their normal location in the office, while 2 are working from home. Perhaps 1 is working off-site, and 3 others are absent from work. Maybe one of those people is experiencing COVID-19 symptoms, but I know that they're also in the same household with someone else experiencing those symptoms and have been under quarantine. If I have any more information that I'd like to provide or ask my company for, I could provide it here. After submitting these surveys, the results are reported back into a dashboard. This dashboard is monitoring the check-ins being submitted actively. It shows how many people are working from their normal locations, working from home, off-site, and absent. You can even view the history for the reports on each one of these items. Using the filters, I can see if any of the employees I'm interested in monitoring are working in proximity with one another, is showing symptoms, or has requested information or assistance. And then I can reach out to that person as needed. This dashboard gives your organization a heads-up view of what's happening on your individual level and team level. Now, I'd like to pass it over to Calvin Kwan, who will give us a more in-depth visualization of how to track individual employees and their movements and how that may or may not impact COVID-19 spread. Thank you.
You're up next, Calvin.
Yep. All right, thank you, Catherine. So Catherine just showed us how we could get input and feedback from our employees using one of Esri's solution templates. So now I want to change the focus and discuss how we can restore confidence in our workforce and our community during the reopening. So reopening is about balancing the need to practice social distancing while restoring people's livelihoods. The question is, what tools do we have at our disposal to help our communities reopen while ensuring that our employees who are responsible for restoring essential services for tourism, transportation, security, and others are protected? And proximity analysis can be that answer. So proximity analysis leverages location information from the user's device to enable you to identify possible proximity events between individuals while on the job. The capability to monitor and understand potential ways COVID-19 could spread through your workforce will be critical as organizations begin to reopen their operations. So let's first talk about how we enable this capability. Proximity analysis is made possible by one of Esri's field apps called Tracker for ArcGIS. Tracker lets you record and share your location within your organization so that everyone knows where you are and where you have been. This capability is available in ArcGIS Enterprise as well as ArcGIS Online. There are many use cases for Tracker. And one way, just to give you an example, is that Tracker is used to improve situational awareness during events. So Tracker keeps information on the last known location of the user, which is extremely useful when medical or security personnel must be dispatched based on their proximity of an incident. So this could be very useful in a tourism area where you need to dispatch medical or security personnel. So there are many other use cases, but today's demo will focus our use case with proximity analysis. So with that, let's jump right into our demo. I'll first share the features and functions of the mobile and web application. So afterwards, I'll use the mobile tracks to perform proximity analysis using ArcGIS Pro. So let's look at the mobile application first. Here you see all of my favorite Esri apps, and it's really simple to get started. All you have to do is click on the Tracker application. And Tracker mobile app is what the field worker or your worker who's working in the field uses to send information about their tracks. And once you sign in, all you have to do is turn on your tracking capability to send that information to your organization. I want to highlight that the user is in full control of sharing their tracks. The app will never run in the background without user permission. On the top left corner, you see that the user has access to their tracks up to 72 hours. And you could also click on the tracks to get additional information. You'll note that the track contains information about the user's speed. Right here is we are driving at 7 miles per hour. This is because Tracker dynamically adjusts the granularity of data collection and upload based on one's speed. So if you're walking, the data is captured every 5 meters, whereas if you're driving, the data is captured every 30 meters. This ensures that we capture data at a similar granularity and optimize battery life. The setting is also very simple to use. In Android, you have an option to set an automatic schedule to turn on or off based on your work schedule. And you have an option to set how often you communicate your last known location with your organization. And of course, Tracker for ArcGIS supports offline and disconnected environments. The data will be stored locally in the device and gets uploaded when connectivity is established. So that was the mobile app. So let's move on to the web application, which we call the Track Viewer. The Track Viewer is a way to visualize and explore the tracks. And in this Track Viewer, we have 4 users. And you can click on the individual users to highlight the tracks and their movements. You can also filter the tracks based on the date or hour ranges, accuracy, speed, as well as the mode of travel. Just like the mobile application, you could zoom in and click on a track to get additional information. But in the Track Viewer, you also have an option to click Next or Previews to understand the actual direction of the user's movement. And in this view, you could also change the base map to get context of their movement of where they have been. So let me come back to the presentation and return to our original question. Now, how can we leverage this track data to reopen safely? And by combining the tracks from Tracker for ArcGIS and using a proximity tracing tool in ArcGIS Pro, our desktop client, we can identify users who have come close to each other based on specific criteria like distance and time. So to understand how the tool works, I would like to begin with a simple exercise. And in the next slide, there will be a short animation of individuals who are on the move over a map. And in that scenario, person 3 have been confirmed with COVID-19. And the question that I want to pose to you is, can you identify other individuals who have come in proximity with person 3? So the animation is a bit quick, so please keep your focus on and let's get started. So we see user 1 and 2 here, but you want to really identify where user 3 have come in contact with other users. So the animation will wrap up soon. Please make up your mind and I'll share the answer in the next slide. There you go. So here's the answer. And you probably saw that person 4 came in contact with person 3 near the right-hand side of the lake. But what was less obvious are the secondary and tertiary proximity events with person 3. So in the animation, we could see that person 1 and person 5 came in proximity with person 4, who previously came in contact with the person 3 who's suspected of having COVID-19. So let's check how this tool works in ArcGIS Pro. So here are the tracks from the same demo in the previous section. And here's an animation. And in this track number 2, the red user is suspected of having COVID-19. And what we want to do is understand which users the red user have come in contact with in this animation. So rather than just showing you the results, I want to show you how the tool works and what sort of parameters are required to perform this analysis. So here's a history of the run that I did previously, and there are 3 parameters that are really important for this tool. The first is entity of interest. Essentially, who do you want to track against? And you could have multiple users, and in this case, I'm using tracker user number 2, who is the red user over here. And we also get to set the spatial and temporal search distance. And in this setting, we're basically saying that a proximity event is defined by any contact within 6 feet for more than 30 seconds. So the tool will search for that proximity event. And once I run the tool, it takes about a minute or 2 to run. This is the result we get. And let me open up to get a clear look of what this tool is telling me. So here, we see that the first proximity event occurs between user 2, the user suspected of having COVID-19, and user 3 in this location. And because that is the primary contact event, that is called depth 1. And then we have subsequent depths with user 3 and user 1 right above that original location, and between user 1 and user 4 in this location over here. So by leveraging tracks from Tracker for ArcGIS, organizations can begin to resume normal operations in the field with the tools to keep their employees safe and prevent spread of the virus. So with that, I would like to turn it back to Linda to wrap up our presentation. Thank you.
And thank you, Calvin. Let me get the screen share back on here, folks. There we go. So we saw a lot of examples of how GIS is being used, moving from response into recovery and reopening. And again, this is possible with the geospatial infrastructure. And we see many organizations, commercial organizations, utilities, government agencies, all looking at some of these same questions. And as we move forward, we have to understand the need for this geospatial infrastructure. It's necessary to help us deal with social conflicts, pandemics, and much, much more. We're already hearing this may be a bad hurricane season. We already see the locusts in Africa and Asia, Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, and now moving over into India and Pakistan. So food scarcity, famine, those may be issues we're dealing with later this year, as well as the typhoons in the South Pacific. And of course, the ever-present, climate change issues, flooding issues that we're dealing with. And a geospatial infrastructure can help us better address these issues. We all, every nation, wants to be prosperous, wants to be safe, resilient, livable, have a healthy environment for our citizens, be sustainable, and most importantly, be innovative, help our citizens and our economy grow. And GIS can help us to do that. Now, Esri's got a lot of different tools out there. I wanted to point you to a few resources First and foremost, the disaster response program. If you do need help, please go online, go to the disaster help button, or just simply click here. It'll direct you right into an alias, and someone will reach out and help you directly. We do have a lot of solutions available. We've also put the link here for that in the slides for you, which will be made available later. There are many different solution templates out there, again, across all areas, from response to the business continuity things that Brent was talking about, and the reopening tools that Calvin and Catherine were showing us. So there's many solutions out there to help you, and we encourage you, please take advantage of these. They're freely available. Go look at them, try them out. Hopefully they will help you as you're trying to get back to business. So with that, I'm going to pause and throw it open to questions. Janet, I'll throw it back to you.
Okay, actually, Linda, I was just about to type those links into the chat, and then that screen disappeared. So I'm not sure if you could just
I will put it back.
Okay, well, I'm not to questions now, so maybe you could copy and paste them into the chat so that everybody has them, and just makes it a little bit easier for them to click on them rather than trying to
sure.
down.
Sure.
So we have two questions. One from Charlotte that was actually just after your presentation, Linda. The question: my university does not have CAD drawings of the 300 buildings. I've made a survey 1, 2, 3 for the janitors, but how can I show the results of floor disinfection status if I only have buildings, latitude, longitude features?
Yeah, that's a great question, and there's probably a couple of different solutions to help with that. I don't know, Brent, do you want to take a first answer at that, or Calvin?
Sure.
Yeah.
I could.
Well,
go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, you take the technology part and I'll take the data part. How's that, Calvin? There is a national data set of buildings, and I believe it's in the Living Atlas that you have access to. If not, connect with me and I'll figure out how to get that to you. It was done with some AI work done by Microsoft, and I'm pretty sure it's freely available. So there should be a way for you to get at least building footprints where you can work from without having CAD drawings. And I did a quick LinkedIn. If you're Berkeley, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some mapping up there. Well, we can connect specifically on the data if you'd like. But the technology piece, Calvin, you want to take that?
Sure. So I think a proper recommendation requires really understanding what you're trying to achieve and what information you need to capture and show to your users. But just to give you an idea of what we can do is, within Survey 1, 2, 3, you might have field for each of the floor with a sort of a drop down on whether it was disinfected or not. And then we could take that and within ArcGIS Online in the web map, use things like the pop-up and arcade expressions to show which floors have been disinfected. So showing the pop-up sort of dynamically based on which floor has been disinfected and not. Again, this is just one idea. I think there's a lot of things that needs to be discussed before we decide on a technology approach. But yeah, we could definitely connect after this to discuss further if needed. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think about, capturing, obviously you're capturing the lat long with the device. Have you also built into your survey instrument to capture the floor and room number? We've also seen others taking photographs. So, using a tool like Quick Capture, for example, take a quick photograph of the room, the door, the number, things like that. So there's many different ways to go at the problem.
Yeah, that's a good point, Linda. We're looking in the valuation sector where field appraisers have to go into a building to take pictures of actual condition. And a Survey 123 app can be configured for that specific data in the house: 3 bedrooms, bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bedroom 3, 2 baths, bath 1, bath 2, and collect those photographs. And there's some level of authority with those photos. And I think the same thing could be done.
Charlotte has just added that she has footprints.
Oh, you have footprints. Okay. If you have footprints, we should be able to figure out a way to add information to those footprints that help you. If it's 3D, we could extrude floors. If it's rooms, even if it may not be spatially accurate, it could be topologically accurate. And again, I think we could do that with photographs pretty easily.
She just made a comment, Brent, while you were speaking earlier about when you gave your example of a house. She had said that that only works with one floor as opposed to a multi-floor building, I guess.
We can put the floor in as a parameter, as an attribute, so it can be floor 1, floor 2. Usually with universities, buildings have a name and rooms have a name and a number. So there's a way to uniquely identify each spot. Again, even if it's not necessarily spatially accurate, we can make it attribute and topologically accurate. So the idea that this room was cleaned, we can collect, or disinfected, we can collect and log that information.
Okay, great. All right, we'll go to our second question then. This was asked just after Calvin's presentation from Alejandro. I hope I said your name correctly. Is this application for cities with high population density?
Sure. Again, another great question. Calvin, do you want to take that from the technology side?
Sure. Yeah, so the example that I showed using tracker tracks and then using Pro to perform proximity analysis, it applies to cities with high density, communities with low population density. The whole point is using data to understand where people have come in contact with. And I think it will be even be more useful in cities with high density, right? Where there could be potential for further spread within the community. So I'll say yes, definitely.
Okay, great. Well, seeing that there are no other questions, Linda, did you want to do a couple of closing comments?
Well, we're just really glad that everyone joined us here today. And I did want to thank the Private Sector Network, UNGGIM, GGIM Americas, for asking us to put on this first webinar. I know it's part of an ongoing series, so we really appreciate the partnership with Valerie and the rest of the team within the GGIM Secretariat. It's our pleasure to share information like this. And again, please, I put the links in the chat. Let us know how we can help you as we're moving to reopening. It's so important that we all consider health and safety, and GIS can help us do that. So thank you. Thank you, Janet.
Welcome. Oh, you're welcome. And I would encourage everyone to join us next month for, you alluded to, Linda, this is the first of a series of workshops or webinars to be offered by GGIM, PSN, the Private Sector Network. So those details will be sent out, and I would guess if you've registered through Eventbrite, then you're going to be at the top of the list for getting those. The date is still yet to be confirmed from what I understand, but watch your inbox for that information. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope you've learned something new, and more importantly, I hope that you will go away and apply it, because it's only through the application of those things that we learn that we change the world. So go out there and change the world again today.